Hello and welcome to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. This is a show which aims at really highlighting the things that we need to be aware of. Sometimes the conditioning, the programming that we've fallen victim to, so that we can truly understand what the global awakening of the African nation will entail. And maybe in this, you will be inspired to really know your position and your role in this global awakening, because each and every one of us has an assignment, whether it's to be someone that researches and exposes the New World Order agenda, whether it's to teach, whether it's to preach, whether it's to just hold the vibration of Black love, Black consciousness, Black awareness, and really just be, living your best life in your situation. That also contributes consciously and in a positive way to our global awakening. But one thing I wanted us to realize is, and to awaken to, is why is Africa where it is, like for real? Because sometimes there's this feeling, of course, there's been this constant narrative from Western nations that Africans aren't as bright, aren't as intelligent, we were found in very barbaric conditions, etc. And I know a lot of us know this is a load of nonsense, but there are actually youth that believe like Africans, we can't get our stuff together and that there's something about us. And I want us to really understand, because a lot of this, a lot of the liberation struggle is not understood or is not taken seriously by the majority of Africans, because they don't really recognize what has been done and what has been lost. We've lost so much. So much. It will all be restored. But I think in our heart of hearts, we have to realize we've lost so much, because what they did is they made us lose ourselves. And then we taught that to every generation after that. And a lot of our parents and grandparents are dying colonized mentally. They're dying afraid of the enemy and without knowing who they really are. And the reason this has happened is because the African mind was actually caused to shut down. You see, we all, all of us as the melanated people, the indigenous people of this planet, we have a natural conscience. We have a natural barometer inside of us that kind of tells us good and bad. We used to live in such organic societies that were super advanced. And it was all us, the Lemurians, the Atlantis, people think those are just myths, but they really did exist. But we were so advanced, and it was because of this, there was this natural inner balance, and we actually lived in balance with nature, etc. And from that point of righteous living came a lot of these miraculous and things that we couldn't even imagine today. Some things like the pyramid, they were able to do that because the people were living in that, ma'at, in that proper, natural, universal law kind of system. But what happened is that the colonizer understood that, there's all these different there's different brains. So if you disconnect me from my higher self, my analytical brain or whatever you call it, and you keep me in my lower brain, then you can literally control me forever, because I won't have those, self-existential kind of thoughts. And that's why you see Africa, it's been very hard for us to get to that point of who are we, where do we want to go, what kind of societies do we want to build for ourselves, how do we heal, because part of our mind is still shut down. We haven't done the necessary individual or collective healing. We haven't really addressed that we suffer from generations of post-traumatic disorder that has literally disconnected us again and again and again from who we really are and from our soul, which, the ancient Egyptians called the Ka, or, if you're into that, but from our soul, from our guardian angels, from our ancestors, from the true nature and character of the Most High, and from our own dominion on this earth. Because you see, trauma-based programming is something that our enemy has mastered. And if you look at the laws of Africa, the first one is know thyself, at least the laws of ancient Egypt. The first law was always know thyself. And the second law was always know thy enemy. And I feel that the reason Africa is where it is today is because we don't know ourselves. And very, very few of us fully understand the enemy we're dealing with. So they've used a lot of mind control. They perfected the mind control, and they realized that if you use trauma-based programming, where you do such horrific events like feeding someone's children to alligators. Yes, that happened in the United States to our brothers and sisters. You know, like totally ripping apart someone and burning someone alive in front of other slaves, so that that trauma just registers on their DNA. And not only will they ever fear revolting, but that fear is passed on generation after generation after generation. And that's where we arrive today, where we have African presidents for no real understanding of their own, who fear the Mzungu, who fear the Western system, who truly believe in their heart of hearts that Africa can never be free. Like, they just don't see it. They just don't see it. They only see, 3 steps ahead of themselves of let's get development, let's not rock the boat, let's stay in this international thing. And in fact, there's such a lack of self-understanding that they've even created this, the elite and the common folk. I mean, that shows you how messed up we are here. But a lot of our African leaders are waking up. Stories they're being forced to, just by constant, international shaming, etc. They're realizing it's not business as usual, even for Western nations, because now they're coming for real. And the second Berlin conference is on. We may not be seeing it, but it's actually happening right now, where Africa, they're trying to recarve Africa. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But that's where their agenda is. But you see, they have managed to shut our minds down by focusing, by this trauma, like when I did my PhD on the Agikoyo women and the Mau Mau women, breaking bottles and shoving them up their vaginas. Sorry if there's young people watching this. I did put the disclaimer earlier. Just such, having mothers watch their children die, so that, the next time around, they're now teaching their children not to be submissive, not to be too rebellious, not to be too, outspoken, not to be noticed by those in leadership in case they die. You see, this is the thing that's happened generation after generation after generation. And a lot of us are still operating in this trauma-based mentality and mind, which means we are not operating in our full capacity, but worse, we can still be easily manipulated by our enemy, because it's like that trauma just even subconsciously makes you act a certain way. Like last week, I released a video, the last week's episode of Wake Up Africa. I told you truths that so many people know about how Africa is a resource colony, and yet I got over a dozen emails of people telling me, oh, be careful, watch out, etc. They have you up here, my brothers and sisters. Because if you really understood who you are, you're a spiritual being having a physical life. You cannot die if you are fully in your power. We will get into those lessons one day in the future when people are ready. But the basic thing I'm trying to say is we must work and initiate that self-healing in ourselves, that self-healing in our families, and that self-healing in our communities, because we cannot take an enemy on from a place of brokenness. And this kind of brokenness is what is fueling this black on black hate, this xenophobia, this, insulting one another and seeing each other as the enemy. Men versus black men and black women ain't getting along. Black parents and black children ain't getting along. Africans and Africans in the diaspora. I mean, it's just like this constant divide and conquer, because we're all operating from a place of brokenness, and broken people break people. Broken people can't fix anything, because you can only give to the world what you are inside. And that's why I want to come back to my central point. Guys, we need to start healing each other. We need to start healing our psyche by telling ourselves the truth. And the people who need the hope the most are our youth. Because in our busy lives and in our confusion, we have kind of forgotten, we're so busy just trying to live in this matrix that we've forgotten that they're coming hard for our youth. And that our youth's, self-esteem is being affected. Our youth's, ideology of what it means to be a black person is being affected. And this will continuously perpetuate itself. Because even if we got the most amazing liberation leader ever, are Africans ready for that? Unfortunately, right now, we're not. Right in this minute, we're too broken. And broken people break people. So if you have money, if you want to start a charity, I know some pastors listen to me, start healing. Start healing our collective consciousness by investigating the truth, sharing, different works, different knowledge of who we are, what our true independence struggle has been, because our people perish for lack of knowledge, and our lack of knowledge is on epic levels, like epic levels. Anyway, leave your comments below. How can we start healing one another, guys? Please leave your comments and I'll definitely share them in a future episode. I love to hear from you. Stay woke, stay blessed, and work on your healing, because broken people break people and we don't want to break each other.